The Eagles roster cuts are in, and the fate of some polarizing bubble players is finally known. Plus, Howie Roseman speaks on some of the biggest winners from Cutdown Day and who might be coming back on the Birds practice squad tomorrow. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. Well, almost 4 weeks of Eagles training camp has finally brought us to today, August 27th, or I guess as it's better known around the National Football League, Cut Day, as Philadelphia axed over 35 players today to create, I guess officially, the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles final 53-man roster. But really, it's not who got cut that's making the big headlines, it's who didn't get cut, and that starts, of course, with James Bradberry, who, yes, Eagle fans, he has made the Eagles' final 53-man roster as a safety and will be a part of the Birds team for at least the foreseeable future. And while sure, maybe this is all part of the grand plan to eventually trade him, I'll see some of the comments from you guys yesterday, it's very, very clear that the Eagles are keeping James Bradberry, and we're just going to have to live with that. Now, sure, his cap hit is probably the main factor in keeping the veteran defensive back, but Eagles GM Howie Roseman did explain in his post-cut press conference they feel like Bradberry gives them much-needed depth and experience at the position.
James always has had really good football instincts. When you see him play safety every day here and see his ability to diagnose his football instincts, I think for all of us, that's a transition. That's a different position than playing outside corner. He's got a skill set. It's a long season. We already know that he's had tremendous success in this league playing outside corner as well. And with goals that we have for this football team, having a veteran player like that on the roster that we know we can rely on when called upon, we felt like it was important.
In the end, if you take a glass-half-full look at James Bradberry, you can at least say he's proven to be a factor in this league, at least somewhat in the past. If the injury bug rears its really ugly head this season, they can move Bradberry either back to cornerback or keep him at safety, and I guess feels somewhat better than playing some sort of undrafted free agent rookie at the spot. Again, I'm just trying to kind of make up a reason why they kept him. That's my best guess. Go down in the comments. Give me your thoughts on Bradberry making this team. I'm sure it'll be a very, lighthearted discussion. Give me your thoughts. I know you're probably as surprised as I am. Now, also staying on the Birds roster is wide receiver Eli Smith, who will be put on IR following MRI results that revealed a surprise ankle injury that should take 4 to 6 weeks to recover. Now, I guess Smith probably injured himself during that final preseason. Okay, I'm not even going to try to BS you guys. Let's be very, very clear. They wanted to keep Eli Smith. They didn't have a roster spot for him, so you kind of have a phantom injury. Maybe something's nagging him, sure, but a phantom injury, put him on IR, and that means he doesn't have to lead the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, I'm fine with that. GMs do this sort of thing all the time, and credit to Howie, again, in front of the media a couple of hours ago, basically promising us that both Albert O and Eli Smith, who both go on IR, were because they were injured.
Well, we had two guys that were injured, two guys that if they came back healthy at some point during the season, we think they can help us, but we got to get them right. They're hurt, and so those were two guys that we would have had to put on the 53 in other years and then put them on IR tomorrow. So certainly felt like the rule in this situation helped us keep two other players that we may not have been able to keep.
Now quickly, the winner of the Nike Philadelphia Eagles t-shirt giveaway from 2 videos ago, you had to vote for me for NFL Fan of the Year. You can still do that down below. That winner is Hugh Francis 797. Hugh, go down below in my description box. Prove it to you by sending me an email, send me your shirt size. Details are all down below. Now sticking with DBs, another bubble player who made it is Eli Ricks, and he's kind of the final cornerback, and I'll be honest, I thought there was not enough room for him to actually go ahead and make this final 53-man roster. He was the preseason star in 2023. He had an okay preseason, but credit to the Eagles to keep the potential still there and hopefully have Eli for many years to come. Now, those are just 2 bubble players who actually made the final roster. The cuts are where things get a little bit more interesting, starting with EJ Jenkins and Dylan McMahon. Cutting McMahon is a head-scratcher. He was a draft pick this year and seemingly was the only other center on the Birds roster, and I guess as it stands now, it's Cam Jurgens and then Landon Dickerson. I don't know. Either way, Howie confirmed it was a tough call moving on from McMahon.
These are hard decisions, and you're really trying to balance the opportunity that you have this year as a football team, and also trying to protect the future of the team and of the organization. And so, certainly not an easy one. Draft picks always are a little bit special place for you, as all these players. But when you pick guys off the board. And I think just for us, where we were looking at the offensive line as a whole and looking at the roster as a whole, Tough decision, but that's where we came up on it.
Also tough, letting go of EJ Jenkins, who had a really solid preseason at the tight end spot, and I thought was going to be the Birds' third-string tight end, but for now, Philadelphia only will keep, of course, Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra. I bet both Jenkins and McMahon come back on the practice squad, but after their play during the preseason, it's not a guarantee. Now, some other names who need shout-outs for, again, making the roster include Ben Van Sumer, the linebacker, safety Tristan McCollum, and my preseason standout, Patrick Johnson. Also on this list is Thomas Booker, the defensive tackle who, I guess, made it in by the skin of his teeth. Congrats to Booker for making this roster. And how about the strong endorsement from the Birds GM after cuts on what kind of player he can be in Fangio's defense?
This is a guy that if you were here in the offseason, he lived in the facility. Tremendous work ethic. Obviously, incredibly smart guy, a Stanford guy. He's got all the tools in his body. And just an incredible tribute to him and how hard he worked. And when you watch the tape and you see his get off and his ability to play with leverage, to play with power, to affect the quarterback, to be disruptive around the quarterback in the backfield. To us, it was clear the guy deserved to be on the team. Probably should have said this to him before I said it to you guys, but just really proud of him. It's a great tribute to our development program. You know, those guys, the program that we have, led by Connor, does a tremendous job of developing guys and trying to work on their weaknesses while they're on the practice squad and in the spring and in the summer. And then obviously with our coaches, they did a tremendous job of putting in position. And you see a guy with talent, with intangibles, with work ethic, who looked really good, and excited to see what he can do during the regular season.
Overall, I think roster cuts were pretty much as expected after Jenkins and Dylan McMahon. I mean, Zach McPherson, Andre Sam, Joseph Ngata, even Paris Campbell, they were all fighting for roster spots at positions that had way too much talent ahead of him. Same goes for guys like Gabe Hall, Tyron Davis-Price, and even Teron Jackson. Again, played well in the preseason, just not enough room there at defensive end. Was there somebody who was cut that you thought should not be cut? Let me know down below in the comment section. Again, McMahon, Jenkins are the two surprising ones. Is there anybody else? I'm going to read the comments. Now, of course, with the cuts being official, we can go through the entire actual 53-man roster, and most of these names you're going to recognize, but here we go. Of course, 3 quarterbacks, and yes, Kenny Pickett, he did make this team, much to the chagrin of anyone who watched the preseason, but they keep 3, no shocker there. Same goes for running backs. Obviously, Gainwell is going to make it, Will Shipley, and their leader, Saquon Barkley. 5 wide receivers, including training camp standout Johnny Wilson. Again, no real surprise there. It's 2 tight ends, which I mentioned earlier. That was a little bit more of a surprising move, although I think they're going to have multiple tight ends on the practice squad. 9 offensive linemen. Again, any shock here? I don't think so. This is about what we expected. And the same goes for 6 defensive tackles, including Thomas Booker. 6 edge rushers led by BG and Bryce Huff. Again, not a real shocker there. It's kind of what you expected. We'll see what Nolan Smith, for instance, is able to do during this season. And of course, 5 linebackers, which I think is kind of interesting. They keep 5. They normally keep 4 in the past. They probably took one of the tight ends and converted it into Ben Van Sumer to be a linebacker because they aren't that confident in the position. Mentioned earlier, the Birds are keeping 11 DBs, including Christian McCollum, Eli Ricks, and yes, Devontae Maddox. They all make the final 53, making what is probably the best Eagle secondary group in recent history. Thumbs up for that. And then finally, of course, the 3 specialists. No doubt there, Jake the Make. Go ahead and make every 50-yarder this year. We love you. Congrats on, of course, making the roster. All in all, cut day is very interesting, right? It's always some player gets cut you don't think is going to be cut. Some player stays you don't think is going to stay. Bradberry is the real polarizing name here. What they did with Anais Smith and Albert O is as well. But center is something I'm really going to keep an eye on, especially heading into the next, 24 hours, as the Eagles would look to not only go ahead and re-sign a bunch of their players that they cut to the practice squad, maybe McMahon comes back, and also look elsewhere around the National Football League to see if they want to bring any other guys in. I'll cover it all here on the channel on tomorrow's show. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe, turn the notification bell. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been Thomas Mott Show.